Hello, friends. This is Jose E. Alvarez, Assistant Forecaster with Robert Kristen, Chief Forecaster for the 2024 Hurricane Season Facebook page. If you've not subscribed to our page, please do so. It's full of very important things, especially if you are in hurricane-prone states. A brief history about myself. I was born on the island of Cuba, but when Fidel Castro came, my family left just in time. And because of business, my father settled in St. Croix, United States, Virgin Islands, in the West Indies. Yes, I grew up drinking pina coladas, limbo dancing, deep sea fishing. My father had a boat. We'd go and catch our own fish and skin them and had fresh fish to eat a lot of times. When I was a kid, we would go lobster hunting in the Virgin Islands, and we would catch our own lobsters. So I grew up like that. But at the same time, the Virgin Islands were in the heart of where many storms and hurricanes in the main development region, as they came out of Africa, would come through. So I was forced to learn how to track hurricanes even as a kid, and I started to get a love for hurricanes and weather then that has stayed with me. Then we moved to Miami, Florida. Yes, and I was there for Hurricane Andrew. I was just a few miles away from where the horrible damage happened. In Homestead, I was a bit more north, so I missed that real damage by just a few miles. It was devastated. There was Hurricane Andrew came through there. And then what happened was this. The Hurricane Center, the big dome radar that they had was blown away by Andrew. And the Hurricane Center was in a high-rise building, office building, and it was severely damaged. So next to my house in Miami in the 1990s, lo and behold, they built the National Hurricane Center. I could see it from my house. That became my favorite building. And the Hurricane Center, if you do not know, has walls that can sustain 200-mile-an-hour winds. There's like 10 feet of concrete. And I wanted to go to the Hurricane Center I have never been to. Then came Facebook. And I went on Facebook to look at the hurricane sites and weather professionals and learn more about weather and hurricanes. And lo and behold, what struck to me, because I was already using the National Hurricane Center website, was the fear-mongering and the hype, and the people saying the hurricane is going to hit here and the hurricane is going to hit there. And lo and behold, Robert Kristen came along, and I saw that there was something different about his page. He was very factual. He was very even-keeled. He never talked about hype and fear. And then people that had Facebook pages, you would ask them a question, they would never answer you except Robert. Robert would always answer me. And that really, I came to appreciate Robert and developed a friendship with him. And then he invited me to join him on his Facebook page probably about 3 years ago. And when I came, I started working with Robert, which has been an honor. It was the beginning of La Nina. But little did I know that La Nina was going to last 3 years. So when El Nino came in 2023, I said, Robert, I know nothing about El Nino. So it's been a learning experience to find out and learn about El Nino. And I'm still learning a lot about El Nino. But anyways, so coming to what's happening in 2024. First of all, much of what I'm going to cover, Robert has done an excellent job on his annual May update that is on his Facebook page, on our Facebook page. It's fantastic. He's got about 10 diagrams. He lays out all the main things for this hurricane season as comprehensively as anybody else has done. So, but this is what we're saying, and All the big players are saying this, and heck, we're big players, but we are saying this. This year is 2020 to 23 named storms, which is an active season. As a matter of fact, I think that the alphabet that the National Hurricane Center uses is 21, and this is 23. That's what you would call an active, or maybe what you would call a hyperactive season. We're saying 20 to 23 named storms, 10 to 14 hurricanes, a lot of hurricanes, 6 to 8 major hurricanes, which is category 3 or above, and also an ACE of over 200. Now, what is ACE? ACE is accumulated cyclone energy, and ACE is not just the number of storms, it is the strength of the storm and the duration of the storm. So when we're talking about an ACE of 200 or more, it is talking about not just activity, but strength and duration of storms. Now, all the big players, Colorado State University, Penn State, I found out that they have a very good meteorology department. AccuWeather, Weather Channel, Weather Tiger, Ben Knoll, all these guys are predicting this kind of a season of over 20 named storms, 10, 14, 15 category 3 or more hurricanes. Hurricanes and 6 or more major hurricanes. So why is this happening? Why? It seems that this season will be an active season. Now, first of all, let me put my own thing in here. Models are very good, but I, Jose Alvarez, do not totally depend upon models. I use a 50-50 system, 50% modeling, but 50% real-time observations, common sense, my knowledge, the mind that God has given me. I use all those things. Why? Because hurricanes are very unpredictable. Many times a model is not going to forecast the unpredictability of an unpredictable hurricane. As a matter of fact, if you go to the National Hurricane Center, you will see that, I don't know about this year, but they will not give you a forecast of more than 5 days because of the margin of error in tracking a hurricane or what a hurricane can do. I have a friend of mine that works for the National Hurricane Center in Miami. He told me 5 days. He told me, I don't say 5 days. I say 1 day, I say 2 days, I say 3 days because of the unpredictability of hurricanes. So I use models, but you know what? I hold them lightly because I need to see the real-time observations. As a matter of fact, last year, very good meteorologists on Twitter, now it's X, were saying Super El Nino. They were saying Super El Nino is going to obliterate the hurricanes. There's going to be no hurricanes in the Atlantic. Well, Super El Nino never came. And we had the 4th most active season, 20 named storms, I think we did. And though the El Nino caused the storms to veer away from the United States, it did very, very little to stop the formation of hurricanes. So again, and I'm going to talk to you afterwards about Irma, when I used to live in Miami, Florida, my observations on Irma. So I go by models and real-time observations. Now, this year, the things that we're seeing, number one, what is called SSTs, or the sea surface temperatures, the temperatures of the oceans. Hurricanes love warm. They love warm waters. They hate cold waters. The waters in the Atlantic this year are very warm. Matter of fact, I think that I heard that they're more at the level of maybe late June, early July. But these SSTs are not just an Atlantic Ocean phenomena, it's a global phenomena. If you look at the oceans of the world, everything is very, very warm, which could be climate change, global warming, it could be the emissions of ships, we don't even know, weather patterns, we just don't know. But number one thing is this, what would lead to an active season is the warm temperatures of the oceans of the Atlantic. Number two, and I want to discuss here what is called observations from the CAN-CIPS modeling system. Now, what is a CAN-CIPS? The CAN-CIPS is first of all, the CAN-CIPS modeling system, I like it because they don't just give you a monthly forecast, they give you a seasonal forecast throughout the year. So when you look at the CAN-CIPS, which stands for the Canadian Inter-Annual Prediction System, during hurricane season, July, August, September, October, we see other things that could lead to an active season. I'm going to discuss with you two kinds of winds, if you may call them. The 200 millibar winds and the 850 millibar winds. Now, in the atmosphere, 1,000 millibars is what is close, basically surface. Then it goes 850, 500, 200, 100 millibars. The smaller the number, the higher that you are in the atmosphere. So the 200 millibar winds are pretty high up there. What we forecast, what we observe, usually is in the 850 millibar levels. Temperatures, winds that we measure are at the 850 millibar levels. So the 200 millibar level winds, these are what are called like the jet stream winds. That's jet streams. That's what causes jets and airplanes to go fast when the jet stream is with you. That's up in the 200 millibar level. Now, in an El Nino in the Pacific, the waters of the Pacific get warm. So when the waters get warm, the air rises, that causes convection. Tropical storms, hurricanes are formed because of the warm waters. See, the warm waters causes convection, rising air, which forms the hurricanes and the storms. So that's the thing about warm waters, that it's important because the warm waters causes rising air that causes convection, causes development of tropical storms and hurricanes. So when in El Nino, the 200 millibar winds are activated and they blow from the Pacific into the Atlantic at a 200 millibar level, and at that level, that is the top of tropical storms and hurricanes, and they shear them or cut off the tops of hurricanes. That's what El Ninos do. A super El Nino blows a lot of 200 millibar level winds from the Pacific to the Atlantic and cuts off the top of hurricanes. When we look at the CAN-CIPS models for hurricane season, because in La Nina, which is what is forming right now, the waters are cool and the air is not rising, the air is sinking, so there's a lack of convection in the Pacific, and the shear then, the activation of these 200 millibar winds is a lot less, and thus there is a lot less shear. So we're looking at the CAN-CIPS seasonal model during hurricane season, and it shows for little shear. That means there'll be little winds to cut off the top of hurricanes. So therefore, the prediction that there's going to be more storms and hurricanes forming in the Atlantic. Then the CANCIPS also discusses during hurricane season the 850 millibar winds, which are what you would call the trade winds. These are the trade winds that blow from Africa to the Atlantic, and it just thinks these trade winds come and they blow on the waters, and guess what? You go like this. When you go like this, your breath cools. It cools. So the trade winds cool the waters. When there's a lot of trade winds, the winds blowing at an 850 millibar level, well, they cool the waters. But there's also going to be an absence or low level of 850 millibar winds blowing in from Africa into the Atlantic during the hurricane season. Again, both of these things lend themselves to warm waters and then an absence of shear. Also, what we saw with El Nino was that though it was an active season, the El Nino allowed for the recurve of storms away from the U.S. mainland. If we look at the CANCIPS model for this year and the precipitation that's going to be happening in the Atlantic, it is not curving outside up into the ocean, curving up away from the United States, is going into the U.S. mainland and into Central America. So we see this combination of little 200 millibar winds and little 850 millibar winds lending itself to an active season. And Robert talks about all these things already. Now, something that's very, very interesting from Ben Knoll is what is called the 200 hectopascal something, some kind of a measurement, velocity potential. The 200 HPA velocity potential, again, talks about when there's rising air, when there's rising air I guess it's, I'm not going to talk about something that I don't know about. But hurricanes and storms love something called divergence. When part of what happens when a hurricane is forming or a tropical storm is that at the lower levels there's convergence when the warm air converges at the base. If you can see my hands, where's my other hand? They converge at the base of the storm like this. They're converging. Then they go up the storm and then they diverge outside, called divergence. At the higher levels, and hurricanes need divergence because divergence is a breathing. It expands the hurricane or the storm at the upper levels. It expands it, the winds blow at those higher levels and allows the hurricane the divergence to breathe and expand. So again, because of La Nina phenomena, we're seeing rising air in the Atlantic, hot waters, sinking air in the Pacific, La Nina, cold waters, and this 200 millibar or HPA velocity potential that is showing divergence is showing a lot of divergence in the Atlantic. That means that the mechanism is going to be there for the storm to just breathe, and then it's showing sinking air in the Pacific. So we're seeing all these things that lend themselves to an active season. Then what is called ocean heat content, or the amount of heat stored in the oceans. Not just heat on the surface, but stored heat even deeper down. The ocean heat content is at the highest level ever. Matter of fact, we see it, the levels of ocean heat content when we get into the Caribbean, going into Central America, seem more like what you would see in the month of July, and here we are in May. So again, we're seeing these ocean heat contents, a lot of stored heat in the oceans. There's a lot more variables, but I'm just explaining to you a few of the variables that we are looking at for this year. Now, let me see if I have any things here that I want to just add to that. The AMO, the Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation. It's an oscillation called the AMO. It's a flow condition in the North Atlantic of the waters where the temperatures are very positive and hot. Well, the AMO right now for a few years has been very, very hot. So we're seeing again that the flow conditions in the Atlantic are for warm temperatures to happen. Now, having discussed the modeling system, let me, as I finish now, share with you a few things from real-time observations. I lived in Miami. I got married in Miami, had my kids in Miami, grew up in Miami. That's why I was next to the National Hurricane Center in Miami. Then I moved to California. I was there for 7 years. Love California. Then we're now in Virginia. But during that time, we had some tropical storms and some hurricane scares. What I want to discuss with you is what you need to do. What I discovered was this. I would see a hurricane coming. I would see a tropical storm coming. I was already on Facebook. I was giving warnings to people. They were being ignored. And then, lo and behold, a day, 2 days before the storm was supposed to hit, the Publix, the Winn-Dixie, the Grand Union, Home Depot, frenzy of people, last-minute shopping, people fighting each other. Why? Why wait until 1 or 2 days? People have ignored that. Now, let me tell you something here. If you're living in South Florida, I'm going to tell you what I think one of the most dangerous places to live in with a hurricane coming is. I believe Florida and South Florida are probably one of the most dangerous places to be for a major hurricane. Let me discuss with you about Hurricane Irma in 2017. I was in California then, but the phenomena of Hurricane Irma, which became a Category 5 hurricane, it was headed to make a cut through the heart of Florida, from the Keys, going up north through the heart of Middle Florida, all the way cutting through the peninsula of Florida to the very top. That was scary. I started to tell people, you know what? This is really a scary situation. Now, here's a phenomenon of Florida. Florida only has one way. It's north and south. Florida is a peninsula. If you live in Florida, Florida is a peninsula. If you try to go east and west, you cannot go east and west because it's ocean. If you live in the Florida Keys and you gotta escape Florida, it's a 400-mile drive. Irma was supposed to be coming with 150-mile-an-hour winds through the heart of Florida from the Keys all the way down to Tallahassee. Again, people started to wait until the last moment. Then what happens is this. Irma is going to bear down. Fortunately, Irma got stuck south of Florida, near to Cuba. It got stuck down there, and then it weakened, and then it deviated course, and it missed going through the heart of Florida from south to north. What happened? Finally, a few days before Irma was coming, people got freaked out. They started to evacuate South Florida. Florida only has two escape routes: the Florida Turnpike and I-75. All of a sudden, you get thousands of people evacuating Florida, trying to get to Alabama or something like that, or Georgia, and finding that they cannot go east and west. And they have 400 miles to travel. So people started to just go up north, evacuate, and they found out that in Central Florida, going up, all the motels were already booked. Then they found out that the gas stations were running out of gasoline. People found themselves trying to escape Irma, and finding out that the gasoline stations were running out of gasoline. What a death trap. What if Irma had come through Florida the way it was supposed to come? I think many people would have gotten trapped. Develop a plan. This activity of hurricanes is great, but you know what? More important is, if a hurricane does come, you know what? If you have, let me see what time it is. I'm going to finish up now. You can have the lowest hurricane season and just have one hurricane, like Andrew came in August, just one, and wipe you out. May I encourage you, this hurricane season, if you live in hurricane-prone areas, do not wait 1 or 2 days. Really, you know what? Don't be like what people do 1 or 2 days before they do all their shopping. And then if you're in a hurricane-prone area, get caught or go in a frenzy. If people had evacuated, if Hurricane Irma had hit South Florida, Florida like it was supposed to, people should have been evacuating 5 or 6 days before. The frenzy of people finding out the hotels were booked and finding out the gas stations were running out of gasoline. Don't be like that. More important than looking at the number of hurricanes, in real time, be prepared and have a hurricane plan if a hurricane is going to hit you. Okay, my friends, it's been a pleasure to be with you. Maybe we'll do this more, but thank you so much for giving us your attention and time. And again, subscribe to the 2024 hurricane season Facebook page with myself and Chief Forecaster Robert Christen. Thank you very much, and have a great day.